Alright everybody, it's Bill. How you doing? I'm using my GoPro for the first time here, so let's see what happens. I'm going to make a basically a plenum or a duct for my new furnace that I just picked up. It's a downflow. It's a Gibson 54,000 BTU, and just gonna see what we can do here. Okay. I lost my log trammel points somewhere along the way, unfortunately. I used to have a really good set that I could use for drawing arts and such, but I don't know where they are. Somewhere lost in the sauce. So we'll do this the old-fashioned way. I'm going to make a slight adjustment here, folks. I'm going to shorten this up to 17 3/4. This line right here will be on the bottom of the furnace. I'll have a 1/4-inch flange here that I will be able to run some self-tappers through. And I wanted to, you know, make it just a radius of 20 inches because that's the dimension I need. However, my piece of sheet metal is 36 inches, so I'm going to go a little bit short and make the two sides out of this piece. So I'll go from the 20 inches that I need on the top and blend it out to basically 17 3/4. Then I'll duplicate that on the other side. That'll give me my two sides, and I just got to find a piece of metal around here that will let me build the bottom half. Okay? Okay, so this is the furnace. This is the furnace that I'm getting ready to set up. It will actually be sitting on this base, so it'll be flipped up 90 and then rotated 90. And this part I'm making, this ductwork, if you want to call it that, or plenum, will be mounted right here. Okay, and it will come down like this and blow the air out. I'm going to have a wooden pedestal instead of these horses here that it'll set on, and the heat will blow out like in this area right here as it's sitting down and up. So that's the project. That's what we're doing. Okay. Let me go get my metal shear. Okay, let's see how these Harbor Freight shears work on this material. I would say they work pretty decent. My first ever metal finishing hammer. I got this when I started in the trades a long time ago. I've had this sucker for over 44 years now. Tell you what, I'm real happy with that shear. Did a nice job. So I'm going to need a piece of material that's roughly, let's see here, 32 inches long. Quick little question for everybody. When you use your air tools, how often do you oil them? Do you oil them for every single use or just every so often? Leave a comment about that. I'm interested to know. I put a drop in mine every time. Put my safety glasses on so Arco wouldn't be mad. Arco. Okay, I'm going to get set up to put the flange on this. Okay, let's bring this edge down a little bit. Put a 90-degree flange on here. I almost put my tipping dies in my bead roller, but this is so easy. Go this method. Just using a piece of 2-inch angle iron for the pull down. Finish this out just a bit. Hey, once again, close enough for jazz. Just have a little whoop in it. Might run it through the shrinker stretcher, I don't know. It's not like it's that big of a deal. I'm going to go test fit it, I'll be right back. Okay, so this piece is for the right side of the furnace. I'm going to do the left side the same way. Basically what I'm going to do is I'll have these two like this opposing each other. I think that's about 12¼ inches or something like that apart. And from there I'm going to hammer two flanges like this. Then I'm going to use the shrinker stretchers to get this form into it. And then I'll just screw it with sheet metal screws together. That'll do it. Okay, I'll be back. I decided that it would make sense to put a couple of beads in the side of these panels because, you know, sure that they're not probably going to be flopping around too much, but you know, they're a little bit flimsy. So I'm probably going to put something across here, maybe an X or something like that. So I'm going to set up the bead roller and give that a go. Now, several different bead dies here. You have to kind of look at the application and the material thickness and, you know, all the details like that to see which tools line up, what's best for that material thickness, etc. So let's set these up. I'm going to put the bead dies in. See what size bead this will create. Now something with any kind of metal forming you do, the cavity is not as important as the punch is, okay? The punch is what actually puts the form in the part or in the material. And like in this case, you can see the radius of the die or the cavity if you were building a forming die, and then the punch. In this case, it's for the bead. And the material will be clamped between these surfaces. These surfaces right here. In the stamping die business, we call that a binder or a blank holder. And what that does is it will hold the material relatively tight between those. That's when we adjust the bead roller to clamp it the right, pressure. And then this punch draws the material down into the cavity, but the material wraps to the punch. Okay, so the punch side is really the forming side, and the cavity is there to accept the material. Now, certainly when you're building a set of tools and dies for a, let's say an inner door panel, you've got ups and you've got downs, you've got pockets, you've got embossments and things like that. All that's, of course, taken into consideration, but forming a big panel like that is different than rolling a bead. So right now we're going to be rolling a bead. You want to make sure that you have the die centered over the punch over the die, so that you don't get too tight on one side or the other of the sheet metal. If you're too tight, like if you're extremely off to one side, you can actually shear the material. Okay, let's drop this back down. Take a look, make sure we like what we see. Hopefully I gauge it always is from the front surface of the tools. Looks good, and it looks good there. So I can tighten down the set screw. Okay, ran a test bead, as you can see. Really stiffens things up. I didn't guide it. I didn't use a guide or anything. Now, one other thing I'd like to say is if you're making a panel for your car, something along those lines, you're going to want to run the part either through your planishing hammer or, better yet, your English wheel, if you have an English wheel available. Because what that does is it pre-stretches the material. Because what will happen, and in this little piece it didn't affect it too much, a little bit though, you can see how the material gets sucked in from the edges, or it would distort and create like an oil can situation on a large flat panel like this. I may run this through my planishing hammer, since you can see my English wheel in the background there doesn't have a upper wheel on it, lower wheel on it, paint on it or anything. I gotta get that sucker wrapped up. I said that 10 times on this channel. So anyways, I'm gonna put that bead in it just like this, and I'll be back. bead. Gonna see if I can't kind of hand qualify this panel a little bit so it's not quite as distorted. But you will get distortion using that bead roller if you don't first pre-shrink the metal. In this case, not too worried about it, and actually, if you can see it in the camera okay, it's not that bad. I think I'm going to do one more bead though. Let me get a line on here and then we'll proceed. Okay everybody, this was the second one, which came out way better than the first one because I had my wife helping me, and she did a great job. Cranking that thing by yourself and trying to keep everything lined up is a pain in the neck, so I recommend a motor or a helper. And thank you, sweetheart, for helping me on this. Okay, there are a few things I didn't show on the video. One of them was hammer forming the sides of that bottom piece that you see in white there on the top at this point in time. And the shrinking and stretching I did to make that fit, and it came out really nice. I also didn't show the fixturing I used to keep everything square and straight, but I used some of my angle plates for that purpose, and kept everything nice and parallel and straight and such. You can see the beads there on the side. I've got the X in the center of each sidewall with a bead running also along the periphery. And there are some flanges that I screwed on to the bottom of the flanges so that it would keep things a little bit stiffer. Here you see a view of it from the front, and then coming up is the final product, ready to have the venting and gas installed. So there you have it. Thanks very much for watching.